Years of house price growth, of course, a savage trickle-down effect in the Australian rental market, leading to an unprecedented crunch. But who's to blame for what has now become a dire situation many potential renters find themselves in? And while high-income earners battle to buy a home, they're being forced to rent for longer. That ends up pushing up prices and squeezing out people who are less likely to enter the housing market, competing for fewer and less affordable homes. The Informer's Daniela Greening joins us to discuss the surge in rental prices and the impact it's having. Welcome, Daniela.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Better than you by the sounds of that cold, but we'll push
Just
on.
a tad. Yeah.
Now, Daniela, since 2001, median house prices in Sydney have risen by an astonishing 269%. Melbourne prices have jumped by almost 300%. And in Brisbane, there has been almost a 400% surge, which has taken prices from 178,000 to over 860,000. Where are we going?
Well, it's humongous. And to match with that, we've had rental increases as well. So we've had about 9% increase across the major capital cities in rentals and another 10% across regional. So it's not just in physical housing prices, but to boot, the rental market's actually increased as well. And, you know, one of the most expensive markets to buy in at the moment is Canberra.
And the flow-on effect from this high housing prices is people are forced to stay in rent longer to save up the amount that they need to get into purchasing a house. How bad does that make it?
Oh, it's huge, because sort of the RBA rate hikes back to back has sort of forced people to stay where they are. And in turn, those rate hikes have meant that people who own property are having to put the rents up. So which means people who are saving to buy a house for the deposit, having spent more money on rent, so they're saving less money to be able to contribute towards their purchase. So it's this sort of cycle of black hole whereby you're trying to save to get into a house, and then the rate hike, and therefore the rent goes up. So it's this never-ending cycle at the moment. And unfortunately, I can't see a way out. And the other impact, Michael, that we'll notice is that our real wages have gone backwards. So what people are earning and what their cost of living is overall is the dichotomy between the two is growing larger and larger.
Well, we've just seen a report by the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute that came out in 2020 that found that the private rental sector has been growing since 2001 at twice the rate of all households, and an accelerating rate in the 10 years from 2006 to 2016. Are we going to give up on that great Australian dream?
Well, it seems there's sort of a group of people in society that will just not be ever able to afford to buy a house, unfortunately. And it's just the way the market is. But it's also due to a number of other issues. There's just we've discussed this many times, there's just a general shortage of property in the market. So obviously it's not just physical established property, but actual land for people to be able to buy. There is generally a shortage of land. And then obviously more recently with the current cost of everything that we've just discussed, the cost of building has increased as well. So owning your own home is, for more people, becoming more and more untouchable. They can't get there. So yes, there is going to be a group of people in society that may never be able to just get to that Australian dream.
Now, we've also seen the recent phenomenon, or fairly recent, of the Airbnb market. Is that adding more pressure when these long-term rentals aren't available?
Absolutely. There's a huge group of housing properties in the market at the moment that are just remaining vacant or untenanted for a long period. The recent census said there's about 1 million properties across Australia that are vacant. A lot of them tend to be in those sort of holiday spots, as we were talking about, and they are generally those Airbnb spots. So they're definitely impacting on the ability for people.
It's a big seismic shift in the market. It seems like the more land we release, though, a lot of the big companies are buying up the land and then taking so long to develop it, and they're actually making a profit because of the increase in land prices the longer they take.
Yes, I agree. But there's also some issues around government regulations. I think we need to have a relook at the way the regulatory process is around releasing of the lands and the subdivision process. There seems to be sort of lots of red flags or red tape around the way that's happening at the moment. I think there needs to be a revision around the process of the way those things happen moving forward. I think there needs to be a more fluent way of sort of developing this low cost mechanism to change the way the land is released, to be able to make it easier to access, not just obviously for developers, because the quicker the developers can get it on market, the quicker they can sell it and make profit. But that would also in turn allow people to access the property quicker and slightly cheaper, I suggest as well.
All right, Daniela Greening from Olive Tree Capital. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Michael.